The Department of Justice is showing strength in the face of the horrific Supreme Court ruling, finding that Donald Trump is entitled to absolute presidential immunity for core presidential functions, for official conduct, and even to have evidentiary presumptions to exclude evidence that may be official conduct in nature from criminal trials. But the Department of Justice is saying it is still going to be moving full speed ahead in the prosecutions against Donald Trump, according to sources that are familiar. And regardless of the outcome of the election, the Department of Justice says they are going to schedule trials and they will try the case regardless of what the outcome is in the election up until on or around January 20th. They see that would be their cutoff in the event Donald Trump were to somehow prevail. But they are fine setting trial in November. They are fine setting trial in December. And they are fine having the trial even start in January. The ends of ultimately law and order and justice must prevail. And despite this horrible Supreme Court ruling, the Department of Justice is undeterred. Special counsel Jack Smith's team is undeterred. That's what is familiar with the prosecutors are telling reporters. Specifically, the Washington Post got the scoop right here. Justice Department plans to pursue the Trump cases past Election Day, even if he wins. If Donald Trump is elected, the finish line for federal prosecutors is Inauguration Day, not Election Day. People with familiarity with the discussion said. This article goes on to say that the Justice Department officials plan to pursue the criminal cases against Donald Trump past Election Day under the belief that department rules against charging or prosecuting a sitting president would not kick in until Inauguration Day in January, according to people familiar with the discussion. So don't expect there to be any delays caused by the Department of Justice now that the Supreme Court ruling has been handed down. Expect special counsel Jack Smith's team to start filing immediate motions with Judge Chutkan in Washington, D.C., and to continue prosecuting the case before Judge Eileen Cannon. And this is clearly an intentional message that special counsel Jack Smith's team wants out there right now in this key pivotal time frame. The article goes on to say that this approach may become more consequential given the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, which probably will lead to further delays to Trump's election interference trial in D.C. Senior law enforcement officials have long viewed the two federal indictments against Trump as operating Justice Department policy that officials cannot criminally charge a sitting president. But there was also long-standing American constitutional policy that no one is above the law. And the Supreme Court of the United States now says that presidents can act as kings and are subject to absolute immunity, where they can order SEAL Team 6 to kill political opponents. And if it's an official act, which it would be structured as, they could get away with it. Lawyers in the Department of Justice do not believe that any of the existing DOJ policies bar them from proceeding against a president-elect. However, according to people familiar with the discussions who spoke on a condition of anonymity to describe internal deliberations, the plan to continue filing motions, seeking court hearings, and potentially conducting trial between Election Day and inauguration underscores a highly unusual circumstance here. Well, highly unusual that Donald Trump attempted to overthrow our government and continues to do so and wants to turn our country into a fascist country. In the midst of a presidential election in which criminal cases have played a central role, any court activity involving a president-elect would push American politics deeper into uncharted territory, the Washington Post says. I should say that it's the conduct by Donald Trump pushing us into that territory, but I'm glad the Department of Justice is getting out this message that they are undeterred. Here's a quote. The Justice Department isn't governed by an election calendar. Its prosecution of Trump is based on the law, the facts, and the Justice Manual, the department's Bible that lays out the post-Watergate norms that have prevented it from being weaponized, said Anthony Cooley, a former Justice Department spokesman for Attorney General Merrick Garland, who left the agency last year. Until these norms change or they're ordered otherwise, I'd expect this Justice Department to be full speed ahead, and they should be. Current officials, speaking on conditions of anonymity, expressed the same sentiment that if Trump were to win, the clock on the 2 federal cases against him would keep ticking until January 20th, and when he would be sworn in if that were to take place. A spokesman for special counsel Jack Smith declined to comment. Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung said the criminal cases against Donald Trump are hoaxes and are imploding. On Monday, the final day of its term, then the article goes on to explain the ruling on absolute presidential immunity. You know, I think one of the things that's notable in the ruling by the Supreme Court on absolute presidential immunity is they also had a very strange, this is from Justice Roberts' opinion, a very kind of strange perspective on, unlawful perspective that Justice Roberts endorsed between the independence of the Department of Justice and the presidency. The point is they're supposed to be independent. President Biden is not supposed to coordinate with the Department of Justice, which he does not. Merrick Garland operates separately despite all of the lies that Donald Trump and MAGA wants to say, because Trump would use Bill Barr, his attorney general, differently than President Biden and Merrick Garland. I know lots of people here are frustrated and say, Biden, you should use Merrick Garland the way Donald Trump used Bill Barr, but President Biden used Merrick Garland the way attorney generals and presidents normally interacted. You get appointed, you get confirmed, and then you stay away. That's what's supposed to take place. But here in the order by the Supreme Court, when they granted Trump absolute presidential immunity, or any president, this is what Chief Justice Roberts says in one offhand sentence, kind of upends all of the idea of DOJ independence and says, if Donald Trump or if a president directs their attorney general to do something that clearly would constitute core presidential powers subject to immunity, that shouldn't even be taking place at all. But watch how Chief Justice Roberts says this in his decision. Chief Justice Roberts, when talking about the types of things that get absolute presidential immunity, says the following: and the executive branch has exclusive authority and absolute discretion to decide which crimes to investigate and prosecute, including with respect to allegations of election crime. The president may discuss potential investigations and prosecutions with his attorney general and other Justice Department officials to carry out his constitutional duty to, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And the attorney general, as head of the Justice Department, acts as the president's chief law enforcement officer who provides vital assistance to him in the performance of his constitutional duty to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Now, that was yet another poison pill put in by Chief Justice Roberts to basically say that Donald Trump would have been permitted to tell people like Jeff Clark to weaponize the Justice Department and go ahead and basically threaten states to overturn the results of their free and fair election, like Trump and Jeff Clark were doing together. But you read that statement, and it basically says, well, now presidents can direct their attorney generals to engage in any activity, and that would not be criminal because the president would get absolute immunity for it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, Chief Justice Robert decrees at the end of DOJ independence in this offhand sentence on page 20. Shout out to Southpaw for calling that out right there. But the Justice Department sending a very powerful message right now back to the Supreme Court and saying, okay, you think we're going to just back down? We're not going to back down. We are going forward. We are moving forward with the prosecutions of Donald Trump. We're going to be undeterred, and we're going to try to pursue trials immediately. And if you want to try to block it, you try to block it. But So that's where we are, folks. We'll keep you posted with more. I'm glad they're getting that message out. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.